Hey guys, this is Marc from HighstrungAudio. This is a review of the Topping Pre90 ultra high-end balanced preamp. This unit cost $599. It is available online and it is brand new, so this is probably one of the first reviews on YouTube. I got this thing on Friday and luckily it only needed about 3 hours of break-in. So after 3 hours, this thing is ready to go. All right, anyway, so you have two sets of inputs and outputs. You have single-ended and balanced on each side, and you have an extension point on the left side. This extension basically is for a module that you could connect this to called the EXT90. It allows for another 6 inputs and really makes this thing very versatile. It's the same size as this unit, and it basically makes it stackable. It goes right underneath it. For my purposes, I don't need that, so I'm just going to review it as is, as a single unit. It does come with a nice remote for all functions. You could actually change the inputs, the volume, the gain, and the brightness on the screen. The one thing I don't like about the remote is you have to actually be pointing it at the unit for it to work. If it's pointed to the side or up while you're pushing the buttons, it's not going to work. So for me, this is not going to really work that well. But for most people, I think it's adequate. So on to the unit. The unit basically has a toggle for the outputs on the right side. You push this in and you'll have RCA, XLR, and then you have a unique feature where it has RCA combined with XLR for dual outputs. So if you have one input going in here, it'll output to two different amplifiers at the same time, which is a pretty unique feature. On the left side, you have the input toggle. So you see XLR, RCA, it goes back and forth. And this also, if you hold it, this will turn off the unit. The volume knob on this is very nice. It's got a good weight to it. I really like it a lot. And I think it feels very high quality. Overall, this is a really nice unit, and I'm very pleased with the aesthetics and the build quality. So, how did I get here? How did I get to buying this Pre90? What led me to needing this? And I'll tell you briefly, my experience with preamps have not been that good. My last experience was with a shit Freya Plus, which was really not such a bad amplifier. It's got a really nice tube stage on it. It does make the music a little bit more pleasing. But in my opinion, when you put it between the signal path and the DAC, the resolution for me went down a little bit. I could tell there was more distortion, and it wasn't like the most pristine audio coming through the Freya Plus. It does have a really good following, so I'm not going to knock the Freya. It does really well for what it is, but as a preamp, it's not going to enhance your music. This, on the other hand, the Pre90 is built to actually enhance your audio performance, and I'll explain to you how it does that. So on most preamps, the specifications are, they're always average or subpar. The first thing I want to tell you about this, the specs on this are world class. So you have a signal to noise ratio of 145 dB. You have a dynamic range of 145 dB. You have total harmonic distortion at 0.00007. Crosstalk, I think, is about 40 or 50. The specs are very, very good on this thing. Now, where the specs really make this thing really come alive are two specs that I noticed. One of them is the output impedance, which is 40 ohms, which is super low. And the other is the output voltage, which is 50 volts, which is super high. When you have those two things going for a preamp, in addition to the specifications, which make this super clean, you're really gonna take your whatever source you're feeding into this to the next level, especially if it's a modern DAC. For example, my DAC right now that I'm using is a Gustard A22. It's absolutely phenomenal. When you hook it directly to the amplifier, it sounds great. However, the output, by the way, the output voltage on the Gustard is about 6 volts on the XLR output, which I feed into my amp, which is a little bit higher than average. Your normal DAC puts out anywhere from 2 to 4 volts. So that is very nice on its own. But however, when you add this in the chain, Now you're getting 20 volts out into the amp through XLR, and you're basically taking all that stress off the amplifier, and it's allowing the DAC to really shine through. You're taking a huge burden off the DAC, and the performance, in my opinion, is just off the charts. What I noticed right away when I hooked this up was, the first thing that I noticed was the dynamics. The dynamic range went up significantly, and the music is a lot more impactful. The drum beats, everything is just, you feel the pluck of the guitar. You actually feel it like a physical sensation through the speaker. That's how powerful and dynamic this makes your system. The other thing that I noticed, which I really didn't expect, was the frequency response was more extended on both the high end and the low end. The mid-range is also more fleshed out and more articulate. So everything was coming through a lot better. And it's hard to explain just how that sounds like on video. It's hard to explain audio through words, but I'll try to make it I'll try to give you the impression that I had when I hooked this up. So it actually sounded like I doubled the wattage of my amplifier, just because the woofers seemed like it had more control. Like I said, the dynamics went up, and it really gave a more hefty sound, and it was much more pleasing. I started playing live music through this, and it actually, the imaging, the soundstage, everything just improved in quality, and it really, the live performance played through this really did sound like an actual live performance. It's very hard to describe just how much this is improving my audio experience, but I'm telling you right now, this Pre90 is the most significant upgrade I've made to my system in the last, I don't know, probably in history. In the history of putting together audio systems and mixing and matching components and adding things and like cables and maybe adding a high-tech DAC, this, as far as jump in audio quality, this is the highest jump in audio quality that I've ever experienced. I'm urging everybody out there to go buy one of these today. Whatever DAC you have, it's gonna make it sound better. I've tested this with a few DACs. Denafrips Aries, it makes it sound a lot better. The Matrix Element I, it makes it sound a lot better. So when it comes to preamps, impedance matching is key. And the greater the differential between the impedance between the preamp and the amplifier, the better the sound. So for example, this is putting out, let's say 40 ohms. My amplifier is putting out 100,000 ohms, which is way, way, way above what's needed for impedance matching. For impedance matching, usually the amp has to be 10 times greater in the ohm count than the preamp output. So this is 40 ohms, and my amplifier is 100,000 ohms on the input. So the lower number that you have on the preamp and the higher number you have on the amp, the greater the sound. So I have a very good differentiation between those two numbers, and that's why I think, in addition to the high voltage output of this, that's why I think this sounds so good. The other thing you want to keep in mind is, to get the results that I'm talking about, you have to use the XLR balanced inputs and outputs of this pre. It's not going to sound as good with the single-ended, and the specs will reflect that. In the if you look up the specs, it'll actually show that. So the balance cables that I use are Mackenzie from AudioQuest. I think they're fantastic, and they work really well. So I recommend that highly. Right now I have my system sounding so good that I don't think I'm going to make any changes to it in the near future. I was planning on selling my A22, but after I introduced the topping Pre90 to the mix, it increased my listening pleasure by a wide margin. And not only am I going to keep it, I think it's one of the best DACs I've ever heard. I have no reason to upgrade right now. That's the difference. That is the difference in quality and output that I'm sensing. One other aspect to the music that I want to try to illustrate is that we always, in audio, we're always trying to chase that analog sound, something that sounds more analog than digital. And this also, putting this in the chain, not only did it, like I said before, increase the frequency range, the dynamics, but it also made it sound more analog. It's hard to describe, but it kind of made it sound like vinyl, like a really good version of like a vinyl output. Really, really articulate, very snappy, very punchy. hard to describe in words, but this thing really takes it to that next level and really gives you that analog sound. So I highly recommend this. I hope everybody goes out and buys one. I'm very critical of my components. If you look at my other videos, I don't let anything get by me. Like, for example, the A90 that Topping made, the amp section I thought was really not that great, and I was really surprised. I like the preamp stage, which is similar to this, but this takes what the A90 does and it dials it up to like 11. If you're serious into high-end music and you want to get every last bit of sound quality out of your DAC, you must, and I'm telling you that you must go and get this. For $600, it's a bargain. There are other companies like Benchmark. They make preamplifiers that have similar specs to this, but they're much more money. Like the entry-level Benchmark preamp, I think, is $2,500, and then their higher-end one is like about $3,000. This is going to be on par with that performance for a lot less money. I'm sure the Benchmark is probably a smidge better, but you know, you're kind of splitting hairs at that point. So this is really all I need. Anyway, please, if you like this video and you found it useful, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps me get this video out, and the more thumbs up I get, the more people will see this video. And I think it's very important that everybody gets to see this. Also, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the videos. We have a lot of new exciting reviews coming up, and it should be a fun year for 2021. All right, guys, have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed it.